Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Squirm Night 2024. My name's Megan Tackett, and I'm the Director of Development at the Aspen Daily News. We are thrilled to have you all here at the Snowmass Village Town Hall for an evening of insightful discussions with our local candidates.
And I'm Erku, Editor-in-Chief of the Aspen Times. We're excited to co-host this event alongside the Aspen Daily News and our broadcasting partner, GrassRoots TV. We'd like to extend a warm welcome to all the candidates joining us tonight, as well as everyone in the audience and those watching from home.
We also want to give a special shout out to GrassRoots TV for making this live broadcast possible. Their dedication to community broadcasting is invaluable. And a big thank you to Aspen Thrift Shop, whose financial support of GrassRoots TV helps bring events like this into your homes.
Tonight's Squirm Night is divided into 3 sessions. First, we'll hear from the Snowmass Village mayoral candidates, incumbent Bill Madsen and Councilmember Alyssa Shank. Following that, we'll have a session with the 4 candidates vying for 2 open town council seats. Incumbent Tom Fridstein, Art Burrows, Cecily D'Angelo, and Debbie L. Corta. Lastly, we'll conclude with the Pitkin County Commissioner candidates, incumbent Francie Jacober and challenger Tony Kronberg.
Our aim tonight is to delve into the pressing issues facing our community. Our journalist moderators will pose a series of questions to the candidates, who will each have 2 minutes to respond. There may be opportunities for optional 30-second rebuttals when appropriate.
Each candidate will also have 1 minute for opening and closing statements. To keep things running smoothly, Megan will be our timekeeper. She'll display a card when there are 30 seconds remaining and another card when time is up. For rebuttals, she'll show just the 1 card when time is up.
Now, we'd like to introduce our moderators for the evening. From the Aspen Daily News to my right, we have reporter Lucy Peterson, and from the Aspen Times, reporter Skyler Stark-Ragsdale. They'll be guiding tonight's discussion and ensuring a robust and informative dialogue.
Thank you again for joining us. We encourage all candidates to engage openly and respectfully. Let's make this a night of meaningful conversation about the future of our community.
Without further ado, we'll turn it over to Lucy and Skyler to begin the first session with our mayoral candidates. Thank you both for being here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lucy. Is this on? Okay. Before we get started, we want to note that there are several projects in Snowmass that the town has officially submitted for review and have entered the quasi-judicial process. Once projects enter a quasi-judicial process, sitting council members cannot comment on them outside of official hearings, where they sit as judges to review the specific project applications. We have 3 sitting council members participating in Squirm Night tonight. So to keep things fair, we will not be asking questions about the Uhlerhof restaurant, the Snowmass Center land acquisition, the Aspen Skiing Company Divide Housing Project, or the Little Red Schoolhouse Project.
Hi, everybody. I'm Skyler from the Aspen Times. So we will begin with opening statements. Each mayoral candidate will have 1 minute. We'll start with incumbent Bill Madsen. Bill, tell us about yourself as a candidate.
Thanks, Skyler. Lucy, good to have you, and Megan. So I often tell people that Snowmass reminds me of Aspen a lot when I was a kid, much smaller community. And that's really what I enjoy about Snowmass Village when I moved out here about 30 years ago. I really had that sense of community that I enjoyed as a young person. And when I got involved with politics, I really, had a focus of trying to help people out. And so I think the basic human needs that we need to cover for people are shelter and food. And I think we've got an amazing workforce housing program, and I think it can continue to provide really great shelter for people who live and work in our community. We've also tried to really embrace people who come here for the season. In fact, my wife started a project at Snowmass Chapel called the Kind Neighbor Project. And basically that feeds people who come to town and who are here for the season. It really provides an opportunity for those people to come together.
Thank you very much, Bill. Alyssa, we'll go on to you now for a 1 minute opening statement.
Great, thank you. Thank you guys so much for putting this together and having us all here. My time on the Snowmass Village Town Council over the course of the last decade has really been an incredible journey that's been filled with listening and leading and consensus building and just amazing way to participate in my community. I am really, really proud of the thoughtful changes that I've been able to effect on our small but mighty mountain town. My work on council has been instrumental in a lot of major projects. I won't go into them all, but safer crossings in the village, short-term rentals, housing regulations, workforce housing projects, and I am excited to be able to further the considerable community and government relationships that I've formed over the last 10 years and see certain projects to completion, whether it's workforce housing, whether it's transportation, whether it's childcare. And I think the most important thing is to maintain the right balance between growth and preserving Snowmass's character.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Alyssa. So to start us off, we are going to ask both of you about a few countywide ballot questions. So we will just ask you to raise your hand if you support each question, but please don't comment.
County ballot question 1A asks voters to authorize a new property tax that would bring in about $8 million annually to support affordable housing. Raise your hand if you support 1A. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you support County ballot measure 1C, which would reaffirm the county's authority in making decisions regarding the Aspen Pitkin County Airport. Thank you.
Raise your hand if you support ballot measure 200, which would put decisions regarding airport runway alteration or relocation to a vote by county residents. Thank you. Now we'll get into questions. As a reminder, each of you will get 2 minutes to answer and an optional 30-second rebuttal.
All right, Alyssa, we will start with you on this next question.
Okay.
Do you support Snowmass ballot question 2D that would authorize the town to spend up to $86 million on 79 affordable housing units at the draw site, which is right up there for anyone who doesn't know, uphill and adjacent to Town Hall? And please tell us why or why not.
I do support 1D. I was part of the council that's approved the resolution of support for the draw site housing project. It does align with our housing master plan. It helps us get to the 185 more units that we're looking to get to as a community for our workforce housing. The question on the ballot is really a spending question. It's not necessarily about the density, the makeup of the units, but what I will say is what we've heard loud and clear from the community and through our discussions on council, which mind you, it's been a 5-year process on council of collaborating and working towards the drawings and the plans that we've come up with. But what I will say is that there's concerns about density, and I think we really need to be responsible with our growth. We only have a set amount of land left here in Snowmass to build, and whatever we build, we want to be extremely thoughtful about it. So if it passes, great. It means we got the spending question out of the way. If it doesn't, it's back to the drawing board. But in my opinion, in a lot of ways, it's back to the drawing board because as a council, we need to reach consensus and we need to feel comfortable with what we're putting out there in the community, that it's the right fit and that it's going to meet the needs we want it to meet.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Bill, I'll ask you the same question. Do you support 2D to fund the draw site with $86 million for 79 affordable units?
I do. I think that workforce housing is a critical issue for our community, not just our community, but all mountain resort communities. We're in the midst of a housing crisis. We have 270 people on the waiting list for rental housing. We need to start tackling that. If you talk to anybody who owns a business in the village, their number one concern is being able to hire employees. They can't hire someone unless they have a place to live. And if you get on the highway and you're going the speed limit, chances are you're going to get pushed off the road because people are going 80 miles an hour up and down Highway 82 to get to Silt or Rifle, Newcastle, wherever they happen to be living. I'm a firm believer that we need to invest in our community, and the best way to do that is to invest in the characters of our community. That's how we build community character. It's super important that people are a part of our community and that they live in the place that they work, because that's how we create this really beautiful mix of people that live in Snowmass Village. It's just really important that we can build it in a way that people can have a pedestrian-friendly environment so that they can walk to work, they can walk to the grocery store, they can hop on their bike. And if they need to hop on public transit, it's close by. So I understand the concern about density, but sprawl is also a huge concern with communities around the country. So sometimes it's better to go up than out so that you can keep people close to public transit, keep them close to where they work, and keep them close to where they recreate. I mean, Snowmass Village is an amazing place, and we all get to enjoy it. I just want to make sure that those people who are really committed to our community also have that same opportunity to live where they work.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Would either of you like to give a rebuttal at this time?
I would give a rebuttal. I personally feel that, yes, it is so important to the fabric of our community, and so many of my friends live in housing, and it is an amazing resource that we can provide people an opportunity. But, you know, we did just, you know, I've listened to SKICO talk, and one of the things they talk about a lot is this idea that you don't want to just, you know, put housing somewhere for housing's sake. You got to be really thoughtful about where you're putting it. And we have heard that loud and clear. And people ask what the difference is between Bill and I on 2D. And I would say that's the difference. Sorry.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Bill, would you like to give a rebuttal?
Well, I think as you can hear, Alyssa and I are aligned on a lot of topics. I think that this particular topic is really important to our community. It's important to have collaboration and make sure that we understand the community's needs and desires. But from our workforce housing study, our master plan, the draw site is the right place, and now is the time to move forward with it.
Thank you, Bill.
Keeping with the housing question topics, how can Snowmass maintain its community character while still addressing housing and infrastructure needs? Bill, you'll go first.
Well, as I just said, I think what we really need to do to create community character is invest in the characters in our community. I mean, those people that make up Snowmass Village, that make it a special place, are the people that live and work here. And I think embracing them in our community so that they can become a part of it is really important. So I think that that's a big part of it, and just making sure that it's a pedestrian-friendly place to live so that we can, again, walk, bike. I mean, we've got an amazing bike path system. We're working hard on making it even more walkable and bikeable with a bike path that goes around the Donnie White curve between the Mountain View and the mall. There's a new path that goes along Highline Road. So these are the types of things that I like to see that really help us make our community more walkable and bikeable.
Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, do you need me to repeat the question?
Yeah, can you?
Yeah.
Thanks.
How can Snowmass maintain its community character while still addressing housing and infrastructure needs?
Well, I think, you know, one of the things that I love about Snowmass is that you could be out on a walk and you could run into your child's second grade teacher, or they live right next door to you, and there's something to me that is very special about that. It's idea that you're mixing new and old and young, and I think that is one of the most special things. And so that's why synchronicity in between the housing developments we're building and what that looks like. Also being able to put money towards the infrastructure we need, A, to build them, and B, to maintain them. That's why 1A, which is on the ballot this year, is a super interesting question, and I think one that could help us here in Snowmass. Creating more money in the Pitkin Housing Fund can then, you know, come back to Snowmass by helping us rehabilitate structures we already have, whether it's housing or you know, Little Red Schoolhouse or anything that we own that we want to put money towards here. I would also say that there is, you know, this certain love that people have for the mall, right? That definitely feels different than the base, but something like the mall, it says it in the comprehensive plan, and it's been talked about for a really long time, that the mall, it needs love, right? It needs to be rehabilitated. It needs to, you know, have a little pick-me-up on the outside, but also create opportunities for people to want to go there and gather. And I think that's a great way to sort of mix community character with important infrastructure projects that we need.
Thank you, Alyssa. Bill, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Sure. I'm not entirely convinced that the mall needs to be rehabilitated. My office is on the mall. I love it. I think it's funky, it's old, it's different than the base village, and it's unique to Snowmass Village. Clearly, we don't own it, but there's a real attraction to Snowmass Village, and it has two really distinct sides. One side is snow melted, and the other side is not, and that presents a really interesting avenue of the mall as well.
Thank you, Bill.
Alyssa, would you like to give a rebuttal?
Yeah, quickly. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I remember being in the mall when I was a kid, and it was really fun, and it still has that feel on Thursday night concert nights when people are kind of bustling everywhere, and there is something so quaint and cool and different about it that you don't get in the base village. But what I'll say is, if you read the comp plan, it specifically says, promote redevelopment of the mall with resort-oriented mixed use, blending density and lodging and retail and restaurants. And the comp plan is designed to be one of our guiding principles.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. So obviously, infrastructure is a big issue these days with the influx of people coming to the valley. Some residents and council members have referenced developing Snowmass in a way that's quote unquote just big enough. What does just big enough mean to you? Alyssa, you can go first.
Well, thank you. I think it feeds into the last question we answered. For me, just big enough is still being able to keep all the things that make Snowmass, but also realizing that we live in a world where there's technology that didn't exist before, and that we are a world-class resort, and people are coming here because of that. So I think for me, it is the right amount of growth, balancing that with the community interest and figuring out a way to best blend resort and community. Personally, that's one of the things that I love about Base Village. And yes, the buildings are big, and maybe it's not what everyone here would have wanted, but when you go to Base Village and you are at the skating rink and you're seeing all the people walking around, there's something amazing about that, because you have beautifully blended the resort part of Snowmass with the community part. And to me, that is kind of what embraces this idea of just big enough.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Bill, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. I think it's a real balance between being in a resort and a community. Snowmass Village is just getting to the point where we have enough people living in the village to have a real community. I mean, we now have restaurants that are open in October, right? That's a big deal. I mean, being able to sustain our community so that they have a place to go in the off-season. I mean, that, to me, is a really important aspect of balancing a resort and community. You got to make sure that our local businesses have an opportunity to be successful. We're just getting to that point where our restaurants are sustainable. So that's really important. But beyond that, I think it's about providing a really welcoming environment, and that includes art in the village. If you've been down to the town transit center at Town Park, we've got 3 new bears that are down there. Our tourism department is going to be installing a snow mastodon or a mastodon on the Snowmass Mall and a calf, and it's going to be a really interactive, interesting display. I mean, our Ice Age discovery is a really unique thing to Snowmass Village. I mean, we have the greatest high altitude Ice Age find in the world. And I think that our tourism department has found a really unique opportunity to promote that and to provide an opportunity for people to get out and learn more about it. Because it's also about climate change. We know that climate change is happening. Whether you want to believe that it's man-made or not, climate change exists, and we have a great opportunity to educate people right here in our village. And I think it's really a great opportunity for people who come here who are not athletic to be able to have some really great opportunities to explore our town.
Great, thank you. And would either of you like to give a rebuttal? All right, we'll move right along.
Thank you both. For months, the Snowmass Town Council has reviewed ways to address the current Snowmass Mall transit depots, including making incremental improvements to existing depots or developing a new transit center altogether. What do you think is the best path forward for the Snowmass Mall transit depots? Bill, your thoughts?
Well, we spent a lot of time looking at this. I mean, we looked at a transit center for years. In fact, it's been on the books since 1990. The EOTC, the Elected Transportation Officials Committee, has been setting aside funding for a transportation center since 1998. We have $6 million in the bank. We had a lot of federal money lined up to build a transportation center. We went through quite an arduous process to get there so we could check all the boxes. And they were, you know, let's make sure our shuttles and our buses are in one location. Let's make sure that we can eliminate the auto and pedestrian interactions that we have outside of Lot 6. Let's make sure that it's the most efficient and easy to use, comfortable place to be. And let's make sure we don't eliminate parking. So we went through this exercise and we came up with a design, and unfortunately the Planning Commission said that it was too big. It was out of our community character. And I give our Planning Commission a lot of respect. I mean, that's why we appoint them to that commission. So we've taken a step back and we've said, okay, what is going to be the path forward? And we've looked at, you know, a two-level design. The two-level design, though, eliminates the parking. So we have an incremental design which would improve both the raft-to-stop and our shuttle stop. And I think at this point that's the best way forward, because anything that we do that's a large-scale, two-level or single-level structure at the mall is going to take about 40 months to build. And I'm not ready to put our mall businesses in a position where they're going to be inconvenienced and disrupted for 3.5 years.
Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, what do you think is the best path forward for the Snowmass Mall transit depots?
You know, I'll echo Bill's sentiments. I mean, it was hard to sit through all that time and planning on the transit center and receive the federal funding that we did, and then have to sort of, in essence, give it back because we weren't going to move forward with that project. But you know, things happen. And one of the main things at that point was that council switched over. And I actually think, you know, looking back, it may have been really helpful in a lot of ways that I didn't realize then, because new council members bring new perspectives. And sometimes when you're looking at something for such a long time, it's hard to really see maybe what some of the nuances or issues might be. I think that I work as a mountain ambassador on Snowmass. I have for 17 years. And one of the things I do every single Sunday is stand out where the buses are. And it may seem intuitive to all the people in this room and other people watching, but it's not to visitors. It's not friendly to people that have disabilities. It is icy. Can be scary, crossing in front of buses, crossing in front of cars. So I think one of the concerns that came out of the last proposal was the safety and the density and the time of the project. I am really confident that we can work together with the mall owners, with the mall businesses, with our community. It has been on the books for a really long time, and it's also referenced in the comp plan. And I think it's really important to get to that point where we can get a project that goes.
Thank you, Alyssa. Bill, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Well, I mean, I guess just to say again that I'm just really concerned about disrupting our mall businesses and just having that much construction going on at the front of our mall. I mean, that's the entryway to our town. And to be under construction for 3.5 years is just not acceptable.
Alyssa,
Yeah, thank you.
would you like a rebuttal?
I would. I'm not concerned with that, Bill, but what I will say is that, you know, there's great opportunity at the mall, including housing opportunity, which I know is so important to you, to create new housing options for workforce housing. And in order for that to happen, I firmly believe that the transit is part of it. You know, the Romero Group, who owns a large section of the mall, for them to go forward and do a redevelopment and create housing, transit has to be in line with that.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Okay, to kind of echo this theme of businesses that just came up and the mall. During the previous mall transit center conversations, local business owners said that construction timeline could be detrimental to their businesses. So how should the town engage both the community and small businesses in mall transit center conversations going forward? Alyssa, you can start first on this one.
Sure. Well, this year we've had 2 meet and greets with mall business owners and, you know, just business owners in general in the village. I think that's really helpful. I think one of the hard parts about the project as it was before is we did not get a lot of buy-in. We didn't get a lot of feedback in general. And until the 11th hour, and then, you know, people started commenting. And sometimes it just takes people a while to catch on to what's going on, and then they comment. So I think we have to come at it from a lot of different avenues. For some people, getting together in small groups and having, you know, discussions. Other people, it might be an online forum. I mean, it's hard to say exactly what's going to work, but I think if we try to come at it at different ways, it may be easier to get a sense of what we could do to help ease any concerns they have and make it tenable for them to operate their businesses despite a closure. I think there's ways around it. I think we didn't get that creative and we didn't put that much emphasis on that part of it in the last go round, and that was one of the lessons learned. And I think we can take a lot from that experience and use it to our advantage going forward.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Bill, same question to you. How can we engage small businesses when talking about mall transit development?
Well, we had, you know, some visioning sessions, but it was really difficult to get people excited about transit. I mean, it's really, and going forward, I mean, public transit is going to become a more important part of who we are, because we got to get people out of their cars, we got to get people riding public transit, and we got to get people comfortable riding public transit, because once you do it, most people will say, oh, I haven't really ridden the bus, and then they ride the bus and they're like, oh, well, that was easy. I don't know why I don't do that more often. A lot of people get hung up about parking at the town park, or the rodeo lot as it's referred to. Once they do it a couple times and they realize they're getting dropped off within steps of the ski slope, that's pretty handy. But I think we really do need to just make sure that we're engaging our business owners in the process. Because and what I did is I went to our staff and our consultants and I said, hey, look, we need to be more creative with this process. We need to be able to develop a transit center that allows us to move our shuttle buses and our rafta buses to one location without disrupting our business for 3.5 years. And I think there's a way to do it. I'm not the guy to design that, but I know that there are people who are up to the task.
Thanks, Bill. Alyssa, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Sure. I do think, I mean, I hear what you're saying. I mean, we definitely want to get people to use transit more, which is why we're doing this project in general. But I think this project specifically is even greater than transit. We have to look at the asset, which I consider the mall a huge asset, and all of the local businesses that are there, and use that in a way that then will help us figure out what it is, that we want to do at the mall in general, and how we want to go forward with a transit project.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa. And Bill, would you like to also give a rebuttal?
Well, I mean, we don't own the mall. We own Parcel C, where the shuttles are now. So that, you know, provides a card in our hand. But it really needs to be a cooperative effort between the owners of the mall and the town so that we can really have a vision for what we want to do going forward. It's going to be a challenge, but I think it's going to be really important to engage our community so that we can have a shared vision.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you both. Alyssa, this next question is specifically for you. You and Bill have frequently voted along the same lines in the past. What would distinguish you from Bill as mayor?
How long do you have? No, I'm just kidding. I was just kidding. What distinguishes us? Well, I would say that in the 10 years that I've been on council, I have had tremendous growth. I mean, I came in really green. I'd never participated in anything like this before, and my first big thing was the reboot of Base Village for, the big whammy that it was. I would say that one of the things that I really excel at is my ability to listen, to be open to new ideas, and to pivot. I can't know everything, and I won't claim to know everything. And so leaning on community members, leaning on people who might know more than I do, and having conversations and welcoming those ideas, I think definitely differentiates us. Also, how we prepare for meetings, the time we put into it. For me, I spend a lot of time doing homework, asking questions of the community. Little Red was a perfect example of that. Also, having the necessary conversations that you need to have with the community to get these ideas and come with suggestions. So, for instance, the short-term rental regulations that we did. I was really instrumental in coming up with the Good Neighbor Guidelines, which, took research. I went out there, same with the leash laws, like understanding what other communities are doing. My time? 30 seconds. And I guess the last thing I would say is just how we look at projects. When I think about the draw site specifically, I feel like Bill is more of a housing at all costs, and I'm more of like housing is really important, and I believe in it, but I want to make sure it's the right fit for our community.
Thank you. Bill, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Well, I live in employee housing, so I think I have really good insight as to what a home in Snowmass Village feels like. And I just think it's such an amazing experience. I really want to provide that for more people. I want people to be able to live here. And if we wind down what we're going to do at the draw site, which might happen, we do have to have a supermajority to pass it. And I'm open to working collaboratively, but we've got a lot of work to do, and we don't have a lot of real estate to get that done.
Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, 30 seconds if you'd like it.
Sure. I mean, I might not live in employee housing, but I have endless friends that do. And there isn't one single housing project that's come in front of this council that I haven't voted in favor for. But the question really wasn't about housing, which differentiates us. I would say one of the things we're struggling with right now is our ability on council to sort of work effectively and efficiently together as a group. And I think I have a skill set that will enable us to get to a point where we feel more comfortable with one another and we can push projects forward.
Thank you both.
Okay, Bill, this next question is for you. So in your past terms as mayor, you focused on creating affordable housing, increasing the connectivity of Snowmass, and improving Snowmass trail systems. Would an additional term as mayor be different from your past ones? And if so, how would it be different? Or if not, you can expand on what you would do.
No, I don't think it would be different. It would be a continuation of what I've really worked hard on. And I think that we do have an amazing trail system, and it's gotten a lot better since I've been in office. I mean, the Hawk Ridge Trail, the Connector Trail, Village Bound, the Discovery Trail. I mean, these are really important assets to our community. And again, the Highline Trail and what we're going to see around the Donning White Curve. So making our village more walkable, bikeable, more livable, I think are really important. But also I want to focus on our environmental concerns, because we've got some pretty lofty goals, and we have done an amazing job. We installed solar panels on 5 different buildings. We have a micro hydro project that is in our water main down here just below the Viceroy. So I want to continue to focus on how we can make Snowmass Village greener and more accessible for people. So I don't think you would see anything change, but I think my vision has been reinvigorated, because I think that these are really important topics that we need to continue to address.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, would you like to give a 30-second rebuttal?
Sure. I think I'll just say that it's important. I mean, it's good to have a vision, but it's also good to be open-minded and be able to admit that you don't know what you don't know. And, you know, by going and talking to people, I mean, one of the key things that I've heard for the last few years and continue to hear is childcare. And that's a really important topic. And so maybe it might not be up there with trails or housing or other things that are important to build, but it's important to a lot of people in this community, and you have to be willing to address it.
Thank you, Alyssa. Bill, would you like to give a 30-second rebuttal?
Well, I know we're not talking about Little Red, but my children went there. And it's one of those core components that we need to focus on. Shelter, food, and childcare. I mean, let's make sure that our kids are having the best education possible, and that they're able to, that parents are able to have childcare in the village.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, guys. Now we're going to move back to questions for both of you. How do you approach consensus building among council members in the community when making decisions? And can you provide an example of a situation where you listened to constituents or fellow council members and adjusted your position? Alyssa, you can go first.
Sure. I think consensus building is really important. I mean, it's definitely important when you're out there talking about things like 2D with the community, but also extremely important at the table. I've had a lot of consensus building moments over the last few years. One being Base Village. You know, the Base Village where the skating rink is was supposed to be a pool. And if it had been a pool, Base Village would definitely be a different place than it is today. And so working with my fellow council members, pitching that idea, really encouraging us to be family friendly. It wasn't easy, and I may have been the only one at the table that had little kids that was bringing that voice, but I was persistent, and we were able to create something really amazing as a group and push Related at the time to get us there. I would say most recently, a great example of consensus building was on Monday night. You know, we had a resolution of support that Bill put forward for the airport, and none of the fellow council members were willing to sign on to that and give it a thumbs up. And I will say that having sat on council with two different mayors, one with Markey and now with Bill, one of the things that I learned from Markey was that you gotta make the phone calls before the meeting, and you have to have the conversations when you can. There's certain things we can't talk about. He didn't call me, and he didn't call any of the other council members, and it failed. And if he had, it may have been a different outcome.
Thank you, Alyssa. Bill, you'll have 2 minutes to answer the question. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, thanks. Consensus building, I think, is, you know, it's key in small town politics, because you really need to, you got to have everybody pulling on the same rope so that we can get to the same conclusion and get there in a really positive way. The resolution for the airport the other night, I talked to both Tom Fritzstein and Alyssa, and they both said that they would support a resolution, and when we got in the council chambers, they decided to play politics and not support the resolution. That was, for me, like one of the most challenging times as I've sat on this council. I mean, it was a clear opportunity for them to take a jab at me, and, you know, I take it personally. So I thought it was really unfortunate and really sad that our small town politics had come to that.
Thank you. Alyssa, 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
That is 100% not true. When we sat in here on October 14th and had a presentation from both sides of the airport, we all said that we were not ready to support a resolution. You said you'd bring it back the next week. When I saw you Wednesday of that week, in which you attacked another member of council for her opinions on the draw site, I said to you, you said, how are you leaning? I said, I'm leaning towards it, but I'm not there yet, because I have a lot of conversations to still have between now and Monday. And never once did you follow up with me or any other member of council before that. That is on you.
Bill, 30 seconds.
Well, I didn't call Alyssa. I spoke to her in person, and I called Tom Fritzstein and I spoke to him, and that was the direction that I was given. If I knew that the resolution was not going to be supported, we wouldn't have brought it to the table.
Thank you both.
Okay, so moving right along. This term, the current council set a goal to preserve, protect, and retain locally owned and locally serving businesses. How can the town better support its local businesses? And Bill, you go ahead.
Well, I think we do a really good job. Our tourism department, we spend about $9 million a year bringing people to Snowmass Village and creating events. I think our Thursday night concerts are an amazing signature event for Snowmass Village. And everything else that our tourism department does. And I spoke about our Ice Age Discovery. I think that that's a really interesting thing that we can continue to expand on. The Mastodon and the calf that'll be in the mall, that's going to be an amazing opportunity. Our ACES tours, partnerships with those types of opportunities. But, and think about the things that make Snowmass unique. I mean, people stand in line after skiing to get a s'more. I mean, it is a really, it's like a signature thing for Snowmass Village. People will wait around and they're not going to get on the bus until they get their s'more. So we do a great job. Our tourism department, Julia, our new director, and Virginia, they just do a great job of promoting Snowmass Village with the campaigns that they run. And I'm really quite enthused about the support that we give Snowmass Village. We can always do more, but again, our businesses are just now getting to the point where they're sustainable, and I'm excited for the future because I think they're going to continue to be successful.
Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, same question to you. How can the town better support locally owned businesses?
Well, I think during COVID, we really had to think hard about this because obviously businesses were shut down, people weren't coming here, and we got really creative then, and I feel like we could get really creative in the future in terms of things that we're not doing that, or the things that we could do better. Bill referenced the s'mores. The s'mores are great, but we've also heard from some, and I mean, I know, I work on the mountain, I see the excitement after skiing, but one of the things I will say is for some of the business owners, they've indicated that that hurts their business because people are going for the s'mores and then they're going home and they're not coming into their business. So how do we get creative with that? Maybe, you have a line where people are getting s'mores and we're also giving them coupons to then go to Ranger Station and grab a beer or something like that. I really think we have an amazing staff in tourism and marketing, and they have risen to the challenge that we've given them on many other things, including discovery most recently and how to bring that back to life. I am confident that we could work with businesses and brainstorm with our own tourism board and staff to come up with ideas that may make it even better than it's been.
Awesome. Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
Bill, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Well, again, I think there's always something we can do to help our local businesses, but our businesses are doing better all the time, and we have some new and unique businesses coming to town as well. As I said, we have restaurants that are open now in October. That's pretty unique, and I think that we need to continue to encourage that while also protecting our shoulder seasons. One of the things that we've heard loud and clear is that our local businesses want to have an off season. They want to be able to shut down, clean, rebuild, and do all those things that are important for their business.
Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
No, I mean, I think it's really one of the nice things, we've seen some of the businesses turn over, and then they've turned over to other local people. And I think there's something really amazing about that. We're not letting these bigger chains come in here, and we're trying to keep it local, even though it might be a new version of local, and working with those newer owners to support them. I mean, I also sit on the board of the Northwest Council of Governments. I've chaired it for the last 3 years and been on it for 10. And one of the things that we do is help new businesses.
Awesome. Thank you both.
Yeah.
We're going to have some individual questions again. Alyssa, you said you will champion the importance of giving families a strong voice in local decisions. How do you plan to do that?
Well, I find it very cyclical here. Like when my kids were little, there weren't that many little kids in our neighborhood, and then there was tons of little kids, and then they left again, and then because they all got big, and now we're back to that. I think one of the hot button topics for a lot of people in our community, especially people with families, has been childcare and how we can get creative. We have a lot of people who have been working really hard at some new ideas. Bringing those families together, maybe creating like a little, I mean, we're not going to create a board or commission, but some kind of group where we can hear from them on a more frequent basis and help give them maybe some ammunition they need to start some of these, you know, whether they're work sort of care joined scenarios. Also, with families, you know, our schools are really important, and a lot of people that live in Snowmass send their kids to Aspen Public Schools, and making sure that they feel like the connection between, even though, you know, it's in Aspen and we're here, that we're providing that connection for them. And we've never really had an opportunity to sort of gather all those parents together and talk about things that they might want to see in the village.
Thank you, Alyssa. Bill, would you like 30 seconds?
No, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Bill, this next question's for you. Do you think local families need more resources in this community? And if so, how would you prioritize those needs?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever been a parent, you need all the resources you can get. I mean, it is not easy raising kids, and but it's also a unique experience to be able to raise children in a mountain environment like this, being able to put them on skis at a very young age, or put them on a bicycle and get them out in the mountains biking, backpacking, camping, fishing. I mean, we have a really unique opportunity, and raising kids here is a special experience. But it's a challenge, you know, and we need all the help we can get. And I think, you know, allowing people to have childcare in the village is a huge asset, and we need to be able to take advantage of that. We need to make sure that we can get people out of their cars at every opportunity so that we can reduce traffic. I mean, we really want to be able to make Snowmass unique. I mean, I've repeatedly said that, you know, I never want to see a stoplight in Snowmass Village. We want to make sure that we continue to flow through the village. There's nothing that creates more angst than sitting in traffic. So I think that, you know, helping parents with childcare, or even getting them to their ski school lessons, easy drop-offs and pickups, those are all things that are really important to parents.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. Alyssa, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Sure. I think one of the things we've heard a lot from parents is sort of local people, the unavailability of the treehouse to our local families. And so I think it's incumbent upon us, and I've mentioned it to SkiCo several times, and I mentioned it in a meeting last week with someone from SkiCo, that we really need to figure out how to make the treehouse more accessible. And whether it's discounts, whether it's punch passes, whether it's, I mean, that building sits there when it's ski season or not. It could be utilized for way more than we're utilizing it now, and working with those families will get to what maybe those resources could be.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah.
And Bill, would you like a rebuttal?
Nope.
Okay, moving right along.
Thank you both. We went through all of the questions that we wrote for tonight. We've got a little more time, so we'd like to give you each an opportunity to ask one question of each other. What would you like to ask your fellow candidate? Alyssa, you can start. And Bill, you'll have 2 minutes to respond, and vice versa.
Oh, wow. I didn't know this was going to be a question. This is a good one, Lucy. I guess, you know, I'm going to ask you, Bill, why in the media, and whether it was public radio or the paper, why you felt there was a need to tell me that I should wait for 2 years to take this role.
Well, I was surprised. Alyssa said she had something to talk to me about, so I jumped on my bicycle and I rode over to her house, and she said that she wanted to run for mayor. And I said, well, that is, you know, it's your choice. You can do that. I was a little surprised because I was on the council that appointed Alyssa to Marky Butler's empty seat when she was the mayor. I also, when I became the mayor, I appointed Alyssa the mayor pro tem. So we've had a very cordial relationship for 10 years. And so when she said she wanted to challenge me, I mean, I was fine with that, but I was just curious as to know why. I mean, we are aligned on almost every issue. And so to me, I thought, well, if you wanted to bring something forward that's different, are you going to be unique and different, that would be fine. I just think my style of leadership is different. I'm very decisive. I do my research, I talk to the community, and I make up my mind, and I move forward. And I think Alyssa has a hard time being very decisive. And it's, you know, when we go through review a lot of issues, I've heard her say numerous times, I don't know. And I think it's really important for a leader to be able to be decisive and to move forward on positions after doing their homework.
For time's sake, we're not going to have rebuttals on these questions, but Bill, what question would you like to ask Alyssa?
Well, I would like to know, one of the first questions our panelists asked tonight was, where do you stand on the airport? You're for 1C and you're against 200, yet you didn't want to support, you didn't want to vote for a resolution of support for the airport.
Sure, happy to answer the question. You know, I said this the other night, and I will say it again for the benefit of anyone that wasn't at our meeting, is that when we put out a resolution to the community, you know, we're essentially saying that we're advocating for them to vote a certain way. And what I've heard in the last 2 months campaigning around this village is people are really conflicted about the airport. It is more so than any other topic. It is all about the airport. And while I personally may feel that it's the right choice to go towards 1C and to say, yes, you know, we should do it this way, 1C, and no to 200D, I wanted the community to feel comfortable approaching us and talking to us about it. I also think that the ballot question is confusing. And there's an educational element that people come to us for. They see us as leaders in this community, and they want to talk. And if they feel like we're trying to push them too hard, one direction or another, they may not come to us, and then they either may not vote on it at all, or they may make a decision that they wouldn't have made if they'd been comfortable asking the questions. I am an approachable person. I see people day in, day out, in all of my roles in this village and this community, whether it's at Pathfinders, whether it's at the school, whether it's sitting at this table. And I welcome any opportunity I can, and in no way I would ever want to alienate anyone from coming and having a conversation with me. And that's why I voted the way that I did.
Thank you both.
Thank you both for your insightful answers. Before we wrap things up, we would like to give each of you an opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement. So Bill, we'll start with you. Why should people vote for you?
Well, I'd like to serve one more term. I mean, it's been my real privilege to serve Snowmass Village. I mean, when I first got involved with politics, my friend Ray Greiser down the street, who you may remember, who was a bartender at the timber mill, said to me, "You should consider politics." And I always just put it aside and thought he was joking. And then when we had the opportunity to move up the street and move into the former mayor, Dick Wall's house, Ray said to me, he goes, "You know, if you move into that house, you're going to have to run for mayor." And so, you know, rest your soul, Ray, but just following through for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bill. And Alyssa, why should people vote for you? You have a 1-minute closing statement.
Great. Well, I have just I've always felt like I've had a deep connection to this town, and this love that I have for this community and this ability to sit in this seat for the last 10 years has been incredible. And I am grateful for all the connections I've made with other municipal leaders, with the people here, some of them in this room tonight. Snowmass faces a lot of really critical initiatives in the coming years, and we've talked about many of them tonight, and I feel like I am ready to guide us through responsible growth that balances Snowmass's character while adapting to all the future needs. And I guess, I'll just close with this, because it's very personal to me that my own daughter is sitting here tonight watching this. And I would never tell my daughter that she should wait for a job that she is eminently qualified for because someone else felt that they were entitled to that position. To me, leadership is a behavior. It's not an entitlement. And I am here to exemplify leadership for this community.
Thank you, Alyssa. And thank you, Bill.
Thank you both for your thoughtful answers. Now we'll move on to our second segment with 4 candidates vying for 2 open seats for Snowmass Town Council. We'll take a minute to shuffle around, let Bill and Alyssa stand up, and let the council candidates
Thank
come
you
up
both.
here.
Thank you guys so much.
Nice job.
Okay, so we will move on to our second segment with 4 candidates vying for 2 open seats on the Snowmass Town Council. So with us tonight are Cecily DeAngelo, Art Burrows, Debbie Alcorda, and incumbent Tom Fridstein.
We'll start with opening statements. As a reminder, each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statements. Tom, we'll start with you. Please tell us about yourself as a candidate.
Okay. Lucky to be first, I guess. Okay. Well, I am running for re-election because I just really love this town. It's very, very special. It has a unique character. I first came here opening year, as it turned out, in a high school ski trip, and I've been here ever since. I've lived here full-time for almost 9 years. My parents lived here for 20 years. Between when I first came here and when I moved here, I had a very successful career in architecture, and I'd like to bring, and I've been able to in my first term, bring those understandings about the built environment to many of the important decisions we have to make here in our town.
Thank you, Tom. Debbie, you're up.
Hi, my name's Debbie. I've lived here for 30 years in the Roaring Fork Valley. This is my first time ever doing anything like this, but I've lived throughout the valley, but I've spent a lot of time in Snowmass, and I would like to be a voice for all of our community, not just second homeowners, not just people who come here on vacation. I would like to have a voice for the working person. I myself work 2 jobs. I am vested in this community, and I would like to see things move forward and get some and accomplish some things.
Thank you, Debbie. Cecily, we'll move on to you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Cecily DeAngelo, and I grew up here. My father bought a house when I was 6 months old on Sinclair Lane, so this has been home for a really long time. My husband and I came back in 2020 and had our child shortly after that, and just recently, 11 months ago, had our second. So just my background is I ran a brick and mortar restaurant in Boulder, Colorado, and currently I'm the executive director of Roaring Fork Safe Passages here in the Valley. I'm extremely passionate about the things that affect local families, and I have 2 children, one who is currently attending Little Red, and the second will hopefully be attending there soon. And some of these issues are very important and the issues that affect families. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecily. And last but not least, Art, tell us about yourself as a candidate.
My name is Art Burrows. I've lived here in the Valley for 45 years. I came here just shortly after the Columbian Mammoths, which makes me old, but it also gives me a broad perspective of what we've done right and what we haven't done right over the last 45 years. I think I have a very creative approach to problem solving. I've had a very successful career designing products for companies like Scarpa and Black Diamond Equipment. and have volunteered a lot of time for increasing recreational activities over 3 county area. So I think I'm ready to solve some problems.
Thank you all.
Awesome. So we are now going to be asking everyone about a few countywide ballot questions. You will just be asked to raise your hand if you support each question. Please do not give a response.
Ballot question 1A asks voters to authorize a new property tax that would bring in about $8 million annually to support affordable housing initiatives. Raise your hand if you support 1A.
Raise your hand if you support County Ballot Measure 1C, which would reaffirm the county's authority in making decisions regarding the Aspen Pitkin County Airport.
Raise your hand if you support 200, ballot question 200, which would put decisions regarding airport runway alteration or relocation to a vote by county residents. Thank you. Now we'll get into questions. We'll pose questions to 2 candidates at a time, but each candidate will have the option for a 30-second rebuttal. For time's sake, we're going to give the person who has answered the question first a 30-second rebuttal.
Okay, but this first question is for everybody, so we'll just go left to right here. Do you support, so Art, starting with you, do you support Snowmass ballot question 2D that would authorize the town to spend up to $86 million on 79 affordable housing units at the draw sites, adjacent and uphill from Town Hall? Why or why not?
I do support it. The reason is that we are far behind in our availability of affordable housing, and we need to solve the problem soon. When I first came here many years ago, I lived in employee housing, which allowed me to develop my business and become successful and buy free market. I want to give that same opportunity to other people.
Thank you, Art. And Cecily, same question to you. Do you support the draw site for 79 units costing $86 million?
I do not support the current question on the ballot. I am in favor of building on the draw site. It is a very challenging place to build, and it is my opinion that we should build a scaled back, slightly smaller development there without buried parking. So in essence, the current ballot question is asking us if we want to spend that much money in that location, and my answer is no. But that does not mean I don't believe in building there. I do. Just a smaller design and less complex and less money on the underground parking.
Awesome. Thank you, Cecily. Same question to you, Debbie. Do you support, and I should have said this to you, Cecily, I just said the draw site, but do you support ballot question 2D, which would authorize the town to spend $86 million to make 79 units?
I do not support the $86 million. I think that there needs to be a redefining process where we maybe offset the cost by grants, funding, sale of units. I am in support of workhouse/employee housing, but at this time I do not support spending $86 million.
Thank you, Debbie.
And just to be clear, the town has said that they could finance part of the draw site with selling some units to businesses and some federal and state grants. Thank you.
And Tom, same question to you. Ballot question 2D, are you in support of it to spend $86 million on 79 affordable housing units at the
How much time do we have?
2 minutes.
I am, as I've written, I am opposed to the ballot question. I am in favor of building something that's appropriate on the draw site. What is being proposed is deeply flawed as a design. I'm not even talking about what it looks like, but the fact that it just doesn't work and it's more expensive than it needs to be. Plus, we are now buying the land above the Snowmass Center, which is a much better place to build housing, much better place for families to live. So I am opposed to the ballot question, but I want to see a smaller, more appropriate, more thoughtful scheme designed on the draw site.
Thank you, Tom. So this next question is just for Cecily and Tom, and we're sticking with the draw site. So what viable alternatives are there for ballot question 2D and for affordable housing in general? Cecily, we will start with you.
Just to be clear, what would I be proposing instead of 2D? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
So I would just vote down on 2D. So no answer there. And moving forward, I think that we need to be really thoughtful about how we are approaching both the draw site location and the potential building site that is behind the post office. And as we look at both of those locations, I think we have to take in holistically what we want, what types of buildings we want to put there. So the draw site, I believe, needs to be scaled back because it's not a great building site, and clearly this price tag came out to be too much. And then we can make up for that some behind the post office. And I think we also can potentially look at who is living where and what type of communities do we want to develop and how do we want to create the best type of living for people in these areas. That could look like a piece of that being developed for families, a piece of it maybe potentially being developed better for retirees, another piece looking more for younger people who might be only living there for a year or two at a time. And I think that's how we have to holistically look at this whole project. I would also like to see the town, and this is something that the town of Snowmass Village already does, but I would like to see an official policy put in place where we aggressively pursue low and no growth options, because I think we're all suffering from construction fatigue. And low and no growth not only will get us units faster, but it also reduces the environmental impact and just the construction impact on our community.
Great. Thank you, Cecily. And Tom, same question to you.
Well, first, I think everything Cecily said is correct, but I will add to that with my architect's hat, because I've thought about this a great deal. On the draw site, which is presently 2 slab towers, they're connected by a 2-story underground garage. And all the access to the building is from the front of the front building, and it's all deeply flawed, and the garage is way too expensive and not necessary. I propose you build the front tower, keep pretty much the design that we've developed, and then park on grade and don't build the second tower. If you do that, it'll take a year to build that garage. We could get that housing occupied at least a year earlier by going with the smaller scheme. Then we need to be looking at the Snowmass Center site. And I'm very upset that I wasn't able to get staff to do a concept design of what we can do up there while we're in the negotiation to buy it. But in the previous design by the developer, there were going to be 60 units of market rate housing, very nice apartments, condos. I think we could build at least, just rule of thumb, at least 100 employee housing units up there. And we'll probably have to do underground parking, but there it's really worth doing it because it's a much better site and it'd be a great place for people to live. So I just think in all this we have to be smart, we have to be thoughtful, we got to do the right thing.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you both. This next question is for Debbie and Art. What is the best way for the town to meet the goal of creating 185 new housing units by 2030 outlined in the town's housing master plan? Art, let's start with you.
I think as Cecily and Tom pointed out, the best way is to continue to parse out the challenges and find the best mix of houses that would be, or units that would be available for sale and units that would be available for rental. It is a big project. I want to add that there is flexibility if it is approved to modify the design to accommodate some of the concerns that Tom has. But I do think that we do need to move forward and make positive forward progress on this. And I think there is room within the process and within the Planning Commission to make those changes that would benefit our community in a better way.
So just to clarify, are you saying the draw site is one of the best ways for the town to meet the goal of creating 185 new housing units as set up in the housing master plan?
I think the draw site is a good place to start. It can be scaled down even if it's approved, and not all the monies have to be spent. And the town and the Planning Commission will go through a very evaluative and thorough process, so I think there is room to modify it so that it works.
Thank you, Art. And Debbie, same question to you. What's the best way for the town to meet the goal of creating 185 new housing units by 2030 outlined in the town housing master plan?
I think that Tom is on the right idea where we start with the draw site plan and then condense it, and then we have other places we can build on, like behind the town center. There's also transit that is a possibility where there could be new housing opportunities there. There's different places that are already established that they've looked at in the past of building housing on those sites. So I think we could do different little places throughout the village, and we could achieve the goal of 185 units.
Thank you. Tom and Debbie, we're going to move to both of you. Town staff have indicated that housing projects like the draw site could be partially financed by selling units to businesses and other entities like the hospital or the school district. Would you support this? Why or why not? Tom, you can go first.
I think we need to be flexible. However, I'm a little concerned about, if we're taking our very limited land, and if we have 200 and some people on the waiting list just for Snowmass employees, I think we have to be a little bit selfish and prioritize the needs of the employees that are going to be working in Snowmass Village. I recognize the need and the importance of other entities like the hospital and the school and all to have their housing, but there are other places in the Upper Valley. Snowmass is the most limited community in terms of available land of any community in the Roaring Fork Valley, and I think we have to be really smart and thoughtful about how we develop housing and who we put in it.
Debbie, same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it?
Would you please?
Yeah. Town staff have indicated that housing projects like the draw site could be partially financed by selling units to businesses and other entities like the hospital or the school district. Would you support this? Why or why not?
I would support selling to local Snowmass businesses, and so that they always had a place for employees to live. We have kind of a similar situation currently in housing where businesses can have a Mountain View unit or a Seasons 4 or whatever, or anything in the housing inventory. I think that if we sold to local businesses, that means and guarantees that your employee is, you're staffed, you have housing for them, and once you no longer need the unit, then it goes back into a lottery system or a pool, and you sell it to another Snowmass business so that you always have a place for your colleagues and your employees to live.
Thank you.
Okay. Art and Cecily, this next question is for you. How can Snowmass better support families? Cecily, you can go first.
Sure. So I'm going to start with answering that question for people with young children, because I think that that's a place where not only Snowmass Village is falling short, but our nation is falling short. We, in Snowmass Village, we do not have access to infant care. We have had a on and off access to an infant room in the Airport Business Center, but there's been nothing locally. So that's just an immediate gap that we can fill. The second place that I would say we need to look is for the burden of both cost and scheduling that we put on local families. Little Red currently does not operate the year round, so we have between 2.5 to 3 months of school that is not provided, of care that's not provided to young families. So, and that's not on so it's not every Friday. It's sort of like sporadically throughout the year that families with young children don't have care. And I believe that in Snowmass, we should be able to provide through Little Red care for young children, that if there were 2 parents that were working for the town of Snowmass, that the care would be sufficient, that those 2 parents could both work for the town of Snowmass and one of them wouldn't have to be part-time or not working. The third piece would be financial. We burden as a country, and here in Snowmass is no exception. We burden families, especially in the first 5 years of the children's lives, with really high bills. Little Red is $95 a day per child, which adds up really quickly. And then if you can't get your child into Little Red and you're needing to look for other care, it's between $25 to $40 an hour. And that is a lot on families. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Cecily. Art, same question to you. How can Snowmass better support families?
The town has taken the initiative to expand the Little Red Schoolhouse by 50%, and they're committing funds to that, but it's not enough. I think we also need to partner with larger companies like the Ski Co. and other businesses in the private sector to take responsibility and create housing and early education, or not housing, but locations where you can go to work and you feel secure that your child is in a safe place, and then you can be productive. So I think the private sector also has to step up as well as what the town is doing currently.
Thank you, Art.
Debbie and Cecily, now a question for you two. What do you think is the biggest issue facing Snowmass Village residents right now, and how do you propose to address that? Debbie, let's hear from you first.
I think the biggest issue is housing, hands down. And the only way that we can address it is if we move forward. So the number one thing when you're out and about is housing, and how are we going to find a solution for that? So we need to pick what we're gonna do, and we need to start. We need to start it. We cannot keep delaying with special meetings, sessions, PUDs. We just need to move forward, because everyone that I am around, again, working class, this is their concern. And some of the concern is housing is tied to their job. They need to, not have the fear of losing their housing because it's tied to their job, number one. Number two, there's the fear of waiting list, or if you get promoted. Let's say you start out working for the town of Snowmass and you get promoted, and now you're working in Aspen. So does that mean you lose your housing? So I think the biggest concern for the people of Snowmass Village is housing, and how do we move forward and start making this happen instead of keep going through the procedures of trying to make it happen.
Yes. What is the biggest issue you think Snowmass Village residents are facing right now, and how do you propose to address that?
Okay, thank you. So I would agree that housing is a large issue, and I think that tied into that is, as we are looking at the housing projects, we also are going to be taking on, as a town, a number of developments. And currently, many people who live here's lives are greatly affected by construction, closures. So as we take on the issue of housing, I think we need to be really thoughtful about it, and especially as we become one of the biggest developers in Snowmass, if not the biggest developer in Snowmass. And again, this ties back to my desire to see some amount of this acquisition of housing happen in a lower no growth manner, which I think could help with part of the problem. But I also think that as we develop this, we need to be really thoughtful about how it impacts the residents' daily lives.
Thank you both.
Okay, Tom and Art, you both are up next for this question. Do you support improving transit depots at the Snowmass Mall? Why or why not? And Tom, we'll start with you.
Again, how much time do we have? Okay.
2 minutes.
I'll be really clear. I mean, there was an impassioned argument made by staff for years that it was essential to combine the raft of buses and the shuttle to have a really effective and efficient and attractive transit system. And I believe we must do that. And we need to put on our big boy pants and make some decisions and do it. In my mind, the scheme that was proposed, that was got to be way too big and not safe, because you'd have 1 million riders
crossing in front of 10 buses. Every time they got on or off a bus, it was just a bad scheme, poorly designed, and pushed forward by engineers and the transportation department. So I believe the two-level scheme is the way to go, where you have the rafter buses on top, you have the shuttles below. In spite of what the mayor said in the last meeting, there's a way of phasing it where you never disrupt business on the mall, and you would actually keep the same number of parking that you have today. That will also have the bonus of freeing up the shuttle lot where, and I'll never speak for a developer because they change their minds every 10 seconds, but the owners of the mall have said if they could have that shuttle site, they could redevelop the center section of the mall in a way that would not displace their tenant because they could phase it and would give the town 23 units of employee housing in that development, which would be huge. So I really believe we need to get moving forward where there's still funding available and stop messing around with incremental fixes to the existing system that doesn't work, the existing stations that don't work, and we need to have a concerted effort and get a good design, designed by good architects and engineers for a two-level transit scheme.
Thank you, Tom. Art, same question to you. Do you support improving transit depots at the Snowmass Mall? Why or why not?
I do support it. I think it's an extremely complex issue right now. The current plan as it stands is very, very expensive, and I do believe the construction time frame would be quite long. So I can't offer clear and concise solutions tonight, but I would say in a year of study, I could offer a much better analysis of it. But I do think we need to get going. I agree with Tom. We need to get going on it now while federal monies are available, and we need to find those solutions soon.
Thank you, Art.
Cecily and Tom, we got a question for you too. How important is the 2018 Town Comprehensive Plan in driving your decision-making as a council member? Cecily, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought that the comprehensive plan was beautifully written, and I think that there was a lot of effort in this town collectively that went into the comprehensive plan. I would turn to it often and remind myself to look at it often as a council member. I unfortunately think that a few things in this village have not followed the comprehensive plan. I would specifically look to the bleachers, just to not to bring up the bleachers, but they really did not fit with the character that was outlined for Town Park in the comprehensive plan, and I think that's a shame. I think that it was something that this community put forward very thoughtfully, and I think we need to examine how something got through that was sort of so far out of line from what this community outlined in the 2018 plan. Yeah.
Thank you, Cecily. Tom, do you need me to repeat the question?
I, as a member of the Planning Commission, I was one of the primary authors of the 2018 plan, and we worked really hard to find a way of balancing the necessary growth for the vitality of this village, but without losing its special character. And it's always that very special balance that we deal with all the time. And I'm glad that Cecily brought up the bleachers down at Town Park. I mean, that was a deeply flawed process because it was driven by the staff. We did not have good architects involved. That we had those stands came in at the last minute. We really wasn't reviewed by council, and I'm proud that just in the last week I was able to initiate, as we're doing our budget review, we're going to have $500,000 in the budget for next year to paint the stands, add better landscaping, and put a appropriate gate into the rodeo grounds from the roundabout, the best we can do to clean it up. Because Frank Lloyd Wright says an architect can only advise their client if the project goes poorly to plant vines. So we're going to do the best we can, but it's a deeply flawed project.
Thank you both.
Okay. Debbie and Art, this question is for the two of you. How do you feel your past experience has prepared you for this position? Art, we'll start with you.
So over the last 45 years, I've been involved in a lot of product developments and a great deal of problem solving. I've also addressed challenges within a 3-county area in terms of improving trail systems, which get us closer connection to nature, and also balance out recreation, which is a much needed and component of our valley's lifestyle here. So I've spent quite a bit of time solving these problems, working hard on them, and I think I have the creative approach to create good solutions to these problems.
Thank you, Art. Debbie, same question to you. How do you feel your past experience has prepared you for this position?
Well, I really don't have any experience in any of this, but I've lived here for 30 years. I have been a coach, a teacher, a volunteer. I have built fields. I have raised countless amounts of dollars for local nonprofits. I love living here. I don't have any experience in any of this, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to try, and I'm willing to give a voice to people who don't have a voice. So really nothing in my past puts me in this kind of a position, but I'm willing to learn.
Thank you, Debbie.
Tom and Debbie, we got a question for the two of you. The current town council has discussed exploring development-neutral housing projects moving forward as the town reaches build-out and to minimize construction fatigue. Do you support this approach, and how do you suggest council goes about it?
I'm
Tom?
sorry, can you repeat? I didn't hear the first part of that.
Sorry about that. The current town council has discussed exploring development-neutral housing projects moving forward as the town reaches build-out and to minimize construction fatigue. Do you support this approach, and how do you suggest council goes about it, if so?
Oh, absolutely. And we're actually doing that. I don't want to mention names or places or dollars, but there are units becoming available, and we're looking to buy them. We're negotiating to buy them. I think that, there's lots of older housing stock that's here that may not be at first value in the free market economy, but they're great for employee housing. We bought the Snowmass Inn. That's a perfect example. Okay, we're spending millions of dollars fixing it up. And when I came here in 1968 for opening year, spring, I stayed in the Snowmass Inn, and I don't think anybody's done anything to the building until we bought it. But no, I'm totally supportive of whatever we can do to not create new buildings. And take existing building stock and reinvigorate them, reinvent them as employee housing.
Thank you, Tom. Debbie, do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I agree 100% with what Tom just said. I actually do live in the Snowmass Inn, so.
We share that.
They did a lovely job of remodeling them, so I am a current resident there. But no, I support exactly what Tom said. There are several buildings and several properties that could be refurbished, that we could move forward and redevelop like they did the Snowmass Inn for town, or for workforce housing and employee housing. Absolutely. Wildwood is one of them.
Thank you.
Okay, this next question is for Art and Tom. Property valuations in the area have risen at record rates in recent years. Should Snowmass ease the burden on taxpayers, and if so, how? Art, we'll start with you.
That is a difficult question. I think we have a good tax base, so we have the leeway within the budget to do that. How that would be accomplished, I'm not exactly sure, but it's worth investigating. I think more than I think there should be some sort of credit as you get older, or your amount of time that you spent there. The valuations have been adjusted at the state level to a certain degree, but I think that we need to balance that with what the needs are in the community, and in discussions with all the other tax bases that we pay our property taxes on. We need to discuss if those monies that have been generated by the increase in taxes are more than what they need, and if we need to adjust those down.
Thank you, Art. Tom?
So it is a huge problem, and I initiated efforts to help. Can't cure it, but the increase in property values is not only a problem for the taxes, which is a problem, but it's also, I worry about, as time goes on, as the homes have become so expensive, and many of us who bought our homes when we could, many people out here, couldn't afford to buy our homes today. So when life events happen and we sell our homes, it will probably be sold to part-time, very wealthy part-time owners, and not the kind of people that have been part of our community here. And that, I worry about that a lot. But let me talk about the taxes. There's only a certain amount of the property tax that Snowmass Village has discretion on. I mean, a lot of the property tax is to the county, to the school, lots of things. So last year when the taxes jumped up, when the values went up, I initiated an effort to, where we had the discretion, to reduce the mill levy to 50% of what we could ask for. So we did do something last year, and the idea was then to phase it in. And this year, staff came back with a budget recommending 100% of the mill levy on these discretionary areas. And again, we fought it, and we fought it down to, I think, 75% of what we could ask. So we're doing what we can. There's very little discretion and very little we can do about it. But I worry existentially about the larger issue, and I have absolutely no answer to that.
Thank you, Tom.
Cecily and Art, moving to you guys. There are a lot of development applications making their way through Town Hall right now, and while we can't talk specifics about some of them, what is your plan to move forward with those applications while keeping in mind open space preservation? Cecily, we'll start with you.
I honestly, so I guess without the specifics, I'm not totally sure which ones we're talking about. But yeah, I'm so sorry.
There are some on-mountain developments,
Okay.
and a couple others.
Yeah, so generally, I would say that for the most part, I'm supportive of those projects. And I think that being said, there needs to be some alterations to them. I would say that there's some concern about visibility from various public trails. And I'm just going to cut off because I'm not going to answer this question particularly well.
Just to follow up on the question, how do you, in general, balance open space and development?
Oh, sure. That one's
Better way
much
to phrase
easier
it.
for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I run a nonprofit called Roaring Fork Safe Passages, and I think that at this point in our valley, we are at the last ditch effort to preserve wildlife corridors in our valley. So I think as we're looking at any type of development, we need to be really mindful about where the animals are moving and how we're constraining them if we continue to develop. I think that it's not that this has never been looked at before or never taken into account. It is actually in our comprehensive plan for Snowmass Village that we're, one of our priorities is the Brush Creek drainage and wildlife corridor. But that being said, as a valley and as a county and as a village, sometimes I believe the development has taken precedence over the careful examination of where animals are moving. And we've moved them and diverted them many, many times. And if we want at this point to ensure that animals have a way of moving, it's going to be now or never that we do conservation efforts to make sure that they can continue to move through the landscape.
Thank you, Cecily. Sorry about that convoluted question at first. Art, do you want me to repeat the question?
Part one would be great. Thank you.
How do you balance the value of open space and development?
It's a really good question. So there are two components to this. Are we developing these areas because they are good for our tax base and good to grow a business, or are we developing these with a priority for our community? So that's the balance. I think we've built a very successful base village, and it's now time to focus on these developments in relation to the community and the environmental values that we feel are so important.
Thank you both.
Cecily and Debbie, this next one is for you. What would your priorities be on council if you were elected? And Debbie, you can go first.
My priority number one would be implementing housing. Number two would be the transit. And I'd also like to see daycare. Daycare is a priority. I have lots of friends who have young children, and it's very difficult for them to work full-time because of, as Cecily said before, the restraints of the daycare. Sometimes they're not there on Fridays, or sometimes they're off for the off season, or they're closed for different reasons, which I do not have young children. My children are 20, 25, but I would say that is a concern for me, so I would prioritize definitely housing, transit, and daycare for families so that both parents can work full-time and achieve and get themselves out of the employee housing situation to have an open market housing, because that's what the whole program of housing is about, right? We start in employee housing so that we can then save, so that we can then buy something in open market. But in order for that to work, we need to have all of the aspects together, which includes transit, the footprint, getting people to and from, and the daycare situation.
Thank you, Debbie. And Cecily, same question to you. What would your priorities be if elected?
Yeah, so better care for families that have young children is absolutely a priority, and I think that ties into the second issue, which is housing for a broad definition of essential workers here in the Valley. So that includes the educators that work at Little Red and other facilities here in Snowmass Village. I would say that my third priority is environmental. I want to push the boundary on what we are doing to become the greenest village. I want to get accolades for what we have done. And while I do believe that has been a priority, I want to push us beyond sort of what is comfortable. And I believe that is essential to the future of our valley, not only from the aspect of looking at our economy is based on having viable snow and the things that we love, like having a healthy environment. But it also, if we're not going to tackle this both locally and globally, threats like fire and fast-moving fire are going to be something that are really threatening to our village. So I'm here to make this one of the most environmentally friendly places in the nation, and hopefully an example that other places can look to.
Thank you, Cecily.
Thank you, guys. That was the last of our questions, but we're back on track. We got a little time, so I'm going to pose the same question to Art and Tom before we get to closing statements. Art, what would your priority be if you were elected?
I think there would be 4 priorities if I was elected. One, I think we need to immediately find affordable housing solutions and work very hard at finding those solutions, whatever they may be. 2, I think we also need to improve the sustainability and safety of our residents within our trail system and our bike paths. We have a lot of visitors, and we now have an electric bike culture, so we now need to address how people are moving through the village and how to make it safer and more efficient. 3, I think the overall transportation solutions, linking up, getting people out of their cars, is high on my priority list. So I'd like to see improvements in the transportation infrastructure. And 4, it's time to slow down growth in terms of the big projects and work on community infrastructure.
Thank you, Art. And Tom, what are your priorities if you get reelected?
Well, I would first say after 4 years in council, you learn about new priorities every different meeting. You have to be prepared for everything coming at you. And the most important thing is always balancing, the needs of the community, the special character of this place, and any requirement for development. Those all have to be balanced very carefully. obviously, I'm interested in development. I think we need to do smart employee housing. I think we need to do a smaller scheme at the draw site. We need to do a scheme for the Snowmass Center site. And I think we should be looking at developing down by Lot 1 in the Green Goddess building that we bought. I think that's also another area. And then hopefully we can get another 23 units on the mall if we do a transit center. I think we should do the transit center. And it's really important to the long-term viability of our town. And I think it may inconvenience the mall for a short term, but I think there's a way to do it that doesn't ever stop traffic to the mall. Environmentally, I'm on the board of CORE, and I think there's a great thing we can do here. The last thing we can do, because we already have, solar and with our utility and everything, is to support converting homes from gas heating to electric, going to heat pumps. The technology is there, it's just expensive. So I think if we could devise a way of using our money, grant money, and facilitating homeowners to be able to switch from gas to electric, we can make a big difference in our climate. And let's face it, I mean, we're all dependent upon snow keep coming here every winter.
Thanks, Tom, and thank you all for your thoughtful answers. We will now give each of you an opportunity to give a 1-minute closing statement. Debbie, we'll start with you. Why should people vote for you?
Me? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
You know what? I am here to speak for the working person, and I'm ready to learn. I'm eager. I want to make a difference in this village, and I just think that it would be a great opportunity for me and for everyone in the village. I love where I live. I've raised my kids here. Sorry, emotional. And I just want to move forward with doing things that will help all of us connect resort community and community together.
Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate it. Art, now on to you. You've got 1 minute. Why should people vote for you?
I think I echo my fellow candidates that I really do love this community. It is my home. It's been that way for a long time. And I've got a lot of energy, even though I'm quite old. I have a lot of endurance, and I'm good at creative problem solving, and I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get to work in improving the community.
Thank you, Art. Tom, 1 minute.
Okay. Again, I really believe in the special character of this community, and we cannot lose it. If we lose that special character, Snowmass will be like any other ski town. This is a really special place. And I think I've got a lot of experience and knowledge and judgment from my experience in my life and my career and my 5 years on Planning Commission, 4 years on council, that I can help guide this town in all of those decisions we need to make to move us forward in a way that preserves this special village.
Thank you, Tom. And last but not least, Cecily, we'll give you 1 minute. Why should people vote for you?
Thank you. If I'm elected to town council, I am here to put in the work. I'm here to learn about the history of Snowmass that I may have missed. I have not been living here for the last 39 years, but I've been in and out and grew up here. And I'm also here to listen and learn from the collective wisdom of our community, and I think that that's really important. I'm here to pick up my phone. I'm here to answer an email. My experience of sitting on the other side and coming to town council is that that's really helpful if someone is willing to respond and engage. And I'm also here to represent the voice of people with younger children in the valley and in the village.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move to hear the candidates running for the sole contested Pitkin County Commissioner seat next. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome candidates. So for our last segment, we're going to hear from the candidates running for the sole contested Pitkin County Commissioner seat. So Tony Kronberg is challenging incumbent Francie Jacober for the District 5 seat, which represents some of the most rural stretches in the county, excuse me. So Francie, in your opening statement, tell us why you're running for re-election.
Well, first of all, thank you, Snowmass. I don't get up here very much anymore. I used to ski here a lot, but now that I can't ski anymore, it's more rare. So thank you for having us. I'm running for re-election because I love my job. I think it's the best job in the county. It's exciting, and it makes me think really hard, and I have to put all of my problem-solving skills to work. I work with an incredible board. We are pretty aligned on most issues. We have a few things we disagree on, but we make a lot of progress together because of that alignment. And I also, our staff is unbelievable. They are so hardworking, and they are so brilliant. And they really deserve the work or the credit for the work that the board has accomplished in the last few years. So that's pretty much why. I think I bring pretty good experience after 4 years back to the table, and I look forward to serving again. So thank you.
Thank you, Francie. And Tony, why are you running for the seat?
Well, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Aspen Daily News, the Aspen Times, and GrassRoots for hosting Squirm Night so that we can share our visions for our community. I moved to Pitkin County 50 years ago to learn how to ski, and as I say, I'm still learning how to ski. I fell in love with the beauty of the mountains, the clean air, the healthy rivers, and the warm, friendly, vibrant community. I decided to make Pitkin County my home forever. The first year that I moved here, we had no snow, so that started my career of having 5 jobs, which I still have to this day. And my background and my accomplishments over the past 50 years have been, I'm a paralegal, a research specialist, I'm a community activist for the last 50 years for well over 100 community projects in Pitkin County, Aspen, Snowmass Village, Snowmass, and Basalt. I'm also a paramedic EMT, and I've served the community for over 20. Was that it? Yeah. Oh my goodness, okay, so I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
The future of the Aspen Pitkin County Airport is perhaps the most consequential issue on the Pitkin County ballot. Tony, you've been advocating for a public vote. Will you be voting yes on 200? What about 1C, and has your position changed?
I am so sorry. Could you repeat that question, please?
Yes. The future of the Aspen Pitkin County Airport is perhaps the most consequential issue on the Pitkin County ballot. Tony, you've been advocating for a public vote. Will you be voting yes on 200?
Yes, I will be voting yes on 200. And I worked at the airport for well over 20 years, and I'm really familiar with what the airport needs. In fact, I was instrumental in getting the expansion of the TSA passenger area through my work experience there. This ballot question I'd like to make really clear is that this is in the hands of the voters, and this is a question about the right to vote. Who's getting the right to vote on the expansion of the airport? Question 200 is giving voters the second chance to vote on the expansion of the runway. We do not know yet what the FAA will approve or has approved in the airport layout plan. Whereas the 1C question, which is giving the Pitkin County Commissioners sole authority over making all decisions, this is not a question about reaffirming the power of the Pitkin County Commissioners, which I totally respect, but what it is doing is adding a subsection which is giving the Pitkin County Commissioners the total authority and discretion on all aspects of the airport, including transportation, the air quality. So basically for voters, the question is, do you want to have a second vote, a second chance on your airport, on the layout, which we don't know yet, as I said, what the FAA has or will approve, or do you want to give the Pitkin County Commissioners the sole authority on all decision-making on all aspects?
And a quick follow-up for you, Tony. The FAA sent a letter to the county last week expressing concern over ballot question 200's potential conflict with grant assurances. Is a citizen vote on the airport worth tempting legal trouble with a federal regulatory agency?
I'm a firm believer in democracy, and I'm a firm believer in the right to vote. And that's what America, that's what the United States is founded on. I've been involved in many referendums and many votes always bringing issues to the public to vote, and then whatever the public decides, what they want is what we have to stand behind. So far as the grant assurances, we're making a lot of assumptions right now, and while there's the letter from the FAA, we really don't know yet what the FAA will approve of the airport layout plan.
Francie, as a commissioner, you were part of a unanimous decision to place 1C on the ballot. What do you think voters need to understand about 1C and 200?
Well, first of all, the airport layout plan was approved yesterday. So we have an approved layout plan from the FAA. We do know what they're going to approve, and we do know where we're going. Secondly, the ballot measure 200 does give the people the vote, or wants the people to vote, and ballot measure 1C gives the people the vote. They said, please, can you give people the right to vote on the layout plan? We have the layout plan. Now you can vote on it. So that's one thing. And then also ballot measure 200, which I said 6 months ago, puts us in jeopardy of grant assurance number 5, and the people with citizen, or what do they call it? Our airport, our vote. They have 3 different names going on, so it's a little confusing sometimes. Our airport, our vote, wanted to see proof that the FAA would have a problem if the commissioners lost their authority at the airport, because in fact, we're not giving the commissioners authority at the airport. They've had authority since the airport was built in the 1970s. It's in state statute, and as part of our contract with the FAA, that the Board of County Commissioners makes the executive decisions at the airport. So that's what I would like people to realize. And in addition, their other argument is that by having a wider runway, we're going to have planes with wider wingspans. And even Amory himself has said many times that planes with wider wingspans are more efficient, and they also create less noise. So if we don't prepare for the airplanes of the future, we are going to be stuck with polluting old-fashioned airplanes in a time when we should be moving forward and modernizing our airport.
Thank you, Francie. Tony, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
I would, and thank you very much. And that is that the ballot question is actually adding a subsection to the Home Rule Charter, which is giving the Pitkin County Commissioners more specific powers, where right now they, as Francie said, they have broad powers that is outlined in the city charter, the state statute, Constitution.
Francie, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the county is asking voters to authorize a new property tax to fund affordable housing initiatives. Tony, do you think a new property tax is the right way for the county to enact meaningful change?
While I've been on the campaign trail, the message that I've heard from many people is that they can't afford the new property tax, and they feel that Pitkin County probably should have waited to put the question on the ballot. You have the Aspen School Board, who is going to put a property tax increase on the ballot, but they pulled that after polling their school district, and they said, we really can't afford this. It's going to be a hardship on us. The Pitkin County Commissioners with Aspen Valley Hospital also created a program for low-income housing that were having difficulty with their property taxes. The county assessor's office had more appeals than ever in the whole history of property taxes. From what I've heard from people is that this is not a good time for them to have an additional property tax increase, whether you're a property owner or if you're a renter. What happens if you're a renter, your rent is going to increase. With the increase in the property tax assessments that just happened, rental rates skyrocketed for most people. And I'm definitely a supporter of affordable housing. I've been here for 50 years. And one of the things that we could do, is there's a real estate transfer tax that, while it's prohibited right now in the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter, the Pitkin County Home Rule Charter can be amended so that property tax, the real estate transfer tax, can be dedicated to affordable housing. And the Colorado State Legislative just passed 2 bills so that the property tax can be used for affordable housing. So I would like to see a more long-term solution for affordable housing costs and acquisition of property, the buy downs, through a real estate transfer tax. And that would have to come from the initiation of the Pitkin County Commissioners.
Just to clarify, counties are not allowed to levy a real estate transfer tax by state statute.
I'm sorry?
Counties are not allowed to levy a RET by state statute.
Thank you, Tony. Francie, it is now the right time to ask voters for a new tax when property valuations and taxes set record highs last year.
Well, first of all, I was just going to back up what Lucy said, that it's not part of our home rule charter that we can have a real estate transfer tax. It's in the hands of the legislators, and we are working in Denver with the legislators right now to try and get them to pass the possibility for us to have a real estate transfer tax. This is a really tough time to ask people to pay more property tax. There's no question about it. The evaluations in Pitkin County were, off the charts this year. And so we did pass a resolution to reduce our county taxes as much as we were able to, which is very little, but we had a few percentage points we could. We also put together a program for seniors who had trouble paying their property taxes, so we're trying to do our best. It's pretty hard. But the 1A will cost people $121 per $1 million worth of property value. Most of us have properties that have risen above $1 million, I realize. But so for each one of those $1 million, you'd be asked to pay $121 to provide workforce housing. And I don't think there are many issues much more important than workforce housing. We have people who are commuting sometimes up to 4 hours a day from Glenwood if they have to travel during peak rush hour times. So they'd take 2 hours to get to Aspen, 2 hours to take home, and we have no idea what's going to happen with the Castle Creek Bridge and how much that's going to slow down the commute. So it would be really great if we could figure out a way to get people to live closer to where they work and to be able to be in a house that doesn't take 50 or 75% of their income. The average cost of a house in Carbondale right now is $1.2 million. In Glenwood, it's $900,000. To support a new house in Glenwood, a mortgage in Glenwood, you need an income of $6,500 to $7,000 a month. And that's if you want to pay half of your income for your housing. So it's completely out of whack, and we need to solve it. So 1A is one step.
Thank you, Francie. Tony, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
I would. And that is that I think the most important pressing issue that involves affordable housing is our transportation and our transit. And I decided to run for Pitkin County Commissioner because of Highway 82. And every single candidate tonight has talked about transit and transportation. And that is crucial to the development of affordable housing.
Thank you, Tony.
What a great segue into our next question. The county recently supported a Highway 82 Safety Improvement Program grant application at Lazy Glen and Smith Way. Francie, whatever work is not covered by a Colorado Department of Transportation grant will then fall to the county to pay. How will the county allocate these resources?
Well, first of all, CDOT told us they think that we will receive all the grants we need to do the Michigan left turn. Is that what it's called? Michigan left? At Smith Hill Way and the Lazy Glen merge lane for people headed up Valley. So we're hoping that's the truth. And secondly, it's a life and death issue right now, so we would come up with the funds if we had to. We have funds in Road and Bridge, and we can make an allocation at the very beginning of the year to commit a higher percentage of our taxes to Road and Bridge. We can't transfer money later, but we can do it at the beginning of the year, so if we needed to, we would. But we've been working with CDOT for several years to try to solve the problem at these two places, but it isn't ours to solve alone because it's CDOT's venue. So we're there, and it's really exciting. Not going to happen tomorrow, though.
Tony, you've said Highway 82 traffic and safety is a cornerstone of your campaign. What will your plans for the highway be, like Aspen Aerial?
That would be one of the solutions. After speaking with many people, as we know, it's really tough to get home sane, alive, on time to pick up your kids and to work on time. There's so much gridlock congestion. I decided to run for Pitkin County Commissioner because of Smith Hill Road and Lazy Glen intersection. When I read that the Pitkin County Commissioners wanted to increase the speed limit and put a stoplight at Smith Hill Road, I said, that's when I decided to run for Pitkin County Commissioner based on my experience with that hill. I contacted CDOT, and CDOT said, we really don't want to do stoplight, and we don't like to increase the speed limit. We like to do roundabouts and gondolas. So I reached out to Andrew Knapp, who's the county engineer, and I said, Andrew, what can we do to make this intersection safer? And then, just as Francie has said, that with my contacting as a private person, that Andrew went out to CDOT and asked them what could be done, and that's where the Michigan left-hand turn came into play. I would prefer to see a roundabout there, because I think that's really a safer venue. And then, as we know, Michael Ferrara got killed at the Lazy Glen intersection, and I worked with Michael on mountain rescue for over 20 years, so that was a definite goal of mine, to make that intersection safe. The Aspen aerial connection, that is something that I've been working on for over 10 years, and it's still something that tomorrow, elected officials transportation committee board meeting, they have not chosen to put it on the agenda for even a discussion to see if we still have a viable corridor. And when you take a look what the Aspen aerial can do, you never have to wait for it. It transports 4,200 people an hour. It starts off at Brush Creek Park and Ride, runs parallel with Highway 82, stops off at the airport, lumberyard housing, buttermilk. It cuts over a little bit of Merle's open space and then goes to Ruby Park. So that's my goal, one of my goals.
Thank you, Tony. Francie, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
Well, I would just say, Tony, I'm sorry, but it wasn't your calling Andrew that made the CDOT come and talk to us about the highway. We've been doing it for 3.5 years. We've had this conversation going. And also, the commissioners never said they wanted to increase the speed limit or put a stoplight out at 82.
Thank you.
Francie, this next question is just directed for you. During an October 9th county commissioner meeting, you said, quote, I was not as well prepared for that meeting as I should have been. In regard to a vote for a new Belly Up Buttermilk summer concert series, can voters trust you to enter each discussion fully read in on the agenda?
Yes, I think they can. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I read every word in the packet. Like yesterday, I spent 3 hours reading this proposal that was brought to us today, and then they presented it to us word for word again. So I'm sure some of the people in here know what that's like. Anyway, yes, I missed the fact that it was going to be 16,000 people, and I was shocked when I heard that at the meeting, and I do think that Greg and I had regrets after we initially passed that. We were like, whoa, that is a really big concert. That seems out of sync with our community. We did bring it up at the meeting a few times with Michael Goldberg, but then when we came back the next week and reconsidered it and had public people come in, I think we heard more from the nonprofits about what their problems were. So for me, what I said to Michael that I think is the way we should go forward with this is they want to continue, if it's successful this year with the one that he committed to rather than two, that if they want to go forward, that they should pick a date and stick with it year after year so the nonprofits understand the calendar and where things are going. And in terms of the conversation about the different genres that they offer, I have nothing to add to that. I have no idea about genres of modern music, so.
Thank you, Francie.
Tony, this question is for you. You were investigated for lying about your residency for a city council election in 2007. In 2004, you were charged with misdemeanor theft. Why should voters trust you with decisions related to budgets and contracts?
So far as the residency, that was when I ran for Aspen City Council, and that basically was a political strategy. One of the persons that I ran against and that I made it into the election, so to speak, that he decided that I was not a resident of the city of Aspen. The city of Aspen decided not to investigate until after the election, and sure enough, after the election, it was determined that I was a bona fide resident of the city of Aspen, had been for over 30 years, and I had a lease to prove it. And at that particular time, I was working a lot of different jobs all up and down the valley, working horses, teaching kids swimming, and so it was determined that I was a definite resident of the city of Aspen. And then it was also brought up that I've had a couple lawsuits brought against me. And what happened was I had a broken neck, and it took about a year and a half, 2 years by the time it got fused and healed. And after that, I, of course, being injured like that, not being able to work, I got behind on my bills. But as soon as I was able to, I got back to work and I made restitution for all of the people that I was behind on with my bills.
I just want to pose the question to you again. Why should voters trust you with decisions related to budgets and contracts?
They should trust me with contracts, with budgets and contracts based on my experience of the last 50 years. For 50 years, I have sponsored and championed well over 100 community projects. And those community projects involve contracts and budgets and bringing issues forward to the voters. Everything from the Aspen Recreation Center that took 25 years and 3 votes. All of these issues I've never been paid once for. It's not a paid position. It's a love and an advocacy for me. I spent 10 years getting the Snowmass Rec Center built, the basalt pools, the Hannah's Roundabout up here in Snowmass, the open space in front of the library, underpasses, entrance to Aspen issues. I sat on the very first committee. And when I have a broken neck and I can't work and I get behind on my bills, I think that voters should trust me that I always honor what I said that I'm going to do.
Thank you, Tony.
Francie, how do you see the county commissioner's role in protecting open space and rural character?
Well, that just happens to be my passion. So I think it's an incredibly important role. And in fact, so far the county has preserved 24,000 acres of open space, which everybody in the valley appreciates. And not everybody moves here to ski, although most of us do. But I think the reason we stay here is because it's incredibly beautiful. And one of the reasons it's beautiful is because we have agricultural lands and open lands that are undeveloped. So as long as I am a commissioner, I will work to preserve as much land as I can. I also think that conservation easements is a way to keep agricultural people on their ranches because it gives them an income that they can then use to continue their ranching. In addition, it keeps the water on the ranch. So we are threatened by outside investors who want Western water. It's a continual threat in the West, and conservation easement is one way to tie water to the land. So I think that Pitkin County has a responsibility and a role to keep our county from being overdeveloped.
Thank you. And Tony, same question to you. How do you see the county commissioner's role in protecting open space and rural character?
Well, the beauty of Pitkin County is that almost all of our available land is already open space, it's already developed. We really don't have any more land that we can save as open space, but what we can do is we can have ranches and make conservation easements on them. And that's one of the hardships about affordable housing, is that we really don't have any land within Pitkin County that we can acquire to build affordable housing, because it's already been, Pitkin County's been a stewardship of rural and open space.
Thank you, Tony. Francie, would you like a 30-second rebuttal?
No, thanks.
Okay.
The county is eyeing updates to its short-term rental regulations. Francie, what considerations are important to you for STR regulations, and why did you vote to restrict STRs in the rural remote zone?
Well, the main reason for restricting STRs in the rural and remote is that it's unsafe for people from other places to come and try to spend a weekend or a week in the backcountry when there are no facilities. It takes a long time for services to reach them, like ambulances or fire. They don't really understand what it takes to live back there. If you talk to people who live on the backside of Aspen Mountain, it's a lot different than living in downtown Aspen, and it takes knowledge of how to live there. So that was the main reason that it was compelling to me. Also, I think that, well, let me put it the other way. I have not been the biggest fan of STRs in rural in the rural parts of the county. I don't think it's a problem in the rural parts of the county. I live in the Crystal River Valley, and I've never seen STRs be a problem there. And two ladies from Redstone came to us and said it was a problem in Redstone, and we were told there were like 31 STRs in Redstone. It turned out there were 7. And 5 of them were in the commercial district. So we went through this incredible rigmarole to develop policies for restricting STRs in the county. And I think that really they only need to be restricted in certain areas. And one of them would be Woody Creek. Obviously, the city needs STR regulations. Probably Snowmass does, I can imagine. But I don't believe that rural Pitkin County has a problem with it. A lot of people in our county are struggling to keep their houses, and STRs is one way to help them make their mortgage payments. And I think one of the problems with the STR regulations that we did develop is that the fees are based on the value of the entire property. So if you have a large piece of property or an agricultural piece of property and you use one house, your fee is based on the value of the entire property.
And Tony, what is important to you for STRs in the county?
I think the most important thing is the regulation of STRs. While I've been going on the campaign trail, I've had many people tell me that the house next door to them has got 5 or 6 different short-term rentals, like they're operating like a hotel. And I think the important thing is regulating it and have clear and concise regulations and then enforcement of them.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to closing statements. Francie, we'll start with you. Why should voters re-elect you?
Well, I have basically 3 areas of passion. One is agriculture and open lands, preserving them through conservation. Another is our community, that we have a very generous community. Our county gives far more to our social services than are required by the state. So it means a lot to me to continue to support those services. And part of that, of course, is figuring out a way to provide affordable housing to our workforce. And then my third passion is the environment. And you all know that Pitkin County and Aspen, and maybe Snowmass too, I don't know about this, have a very aggressive climate action plan, and we are working towards electrifying all of the county buildings. We're doing the library and the Health and Human Services building right now. We're building a microgrid for resiliency, which hopefully will pay for itself when we can sell back to Holy Cross that electricity that we're not using. And we also built the solar farm out on the sanitation district below Brush Creek. So we're making progress, but we have a lot of aspirations in terms of changing our land use codes and building codes to affect environmental changes.
Thank you, Francie. Tony, closing statement. Why should voters elect you to the board?
I hope that voters decide that I would be the best candidate for Pitkin County Commissioner based on my 50-year history of living in Pitkin County. My campaign is not a sexy campaign. It's a nuts and bolts campaign, and it's called Highway 82. Highway 82 is the lifeline of our entire community, from commuters from Rifle, Glenwood, Aspen, Snowmass. Highway 82 has not been touched in 50 years except for the expansion from 4 lanes to 2 lanes. I get the job done, and I think that's evidenced by all the projects that I have worked steadfastly on, and my pledge is I will work tirelessly until we have all 33 intersections on Highway 82 safe so that parents can pick their kids up on time, workers can get to work, we don't have the gridlock, we don't have the angst. And to me, that is the one thing that no one argues about. There's no controversy whatsoever. Highway 82 needs some love and attention.
Thank you, Tony. And thank you, Francie. And thank you to all the candidates.
Thank you, guys. That went
And thank
fast.
you to everyone
Thank you.
who joined us in
Thanks,
person
Francie.
or
Thank
tuned
you.
in via GrassRoots TV.
We want to extend our gratitude to all the candidates for participating and to our audience for being engaged citizens. Seriously, I'm very impressed. You made it through the long haul. Special thank you again to GrassRoots TV and to the Aspen Thrift Shop for their support. Don't forget to vote on November 5th. Your voice matters.
Stay informed by following coverage in the Aspen Daily News and the Aspen Times. Together, we can ensure a vibrant and accountable community. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna get the paper out.